Shyama Sundara Gana Shyama Sundara Gana Shyama Sundara Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Remove that. The topic, golf. How many of you play golf? Do you? And nobody is raising it. I can see few of them only. You play? In the year 2006, Chinmaya Mission Los Angeles, we conducted a golf tournament. It is an 18-hole golf tournament. So at that time, they asked me if I can give them a message for each hole. So I said 18 holes is so connected to 18 chapters of Gita. So I said, okay, I will do that. So I picked up one caption or message from each chapter, which not only is relevant to, it is from Bhagavad Gita, all right, but it should be relevant to the game of golf. So therefore, I gave those 18. Later on, I expanded that into a presentation. That's what it is. Now, while I was preparing that, I also came across a book, The Legend of the Baggermans. First I saw the movie, and then I came across this book. The author was Stephen Pressfield. In his introduction to this book, he says he was very influenced by the character of Krishna and Arjuna of Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita. He said, playing golf is like playing a field of life or in a war field, where what is most important is not the skill but the strength of mind. Arjuna also was a very skillful warrior, all right, but did not have the strength of mind to face the challenge. Facing the changes that are taking place. Sometime back, I was giving this topic on something else, on about changes. So nowadays, people put a lot of things to change their face. What is that they put? Bow tie. So I was telling him, instead of changing your face, why not you face the changes? So, the battlefield is like our life. You have to face a lot of challenges and changes. So he took the character of Arjuna and character of Krishna and created a story. That's what is called Legend of the Bhagavans. Movie came sometime later, acted by, I think it was Matt Damon and Bruce Willis. Will Smith. Very interesting movie. The story goes like, this guy comes back from battlefield, I think it's Second World War, and he was very unhappy because he was kind of defeated. Lost his enthusiasm, the drive. I wanted to live in a very lonely life. Even though he was married, he did not even go to his wife. He was a good golfer, on the other hand. So wife was a rich person, and her father dies, and she wanted to bring back some kind of a business to the small city in which they were living. So she decided to have a golf tournament, and they came to know that this guy is already back. They tried to persuade him. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to go for the game. And slowly, he thinks about it, and there comes this caddy, and he inspires him why it is important to play. He says, I lost my swing. No, you can gain it back. So the conversation that takes place between the caddy and the player is a story. How he gives him a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of drive by just talking to him, just like Krishna did to Arjuna. And the characters' names are also very interesting. The caddy's name is Bhagavan. He's sounding like Bhagavan. And the player's name was Juna. So very clearly it is, lifted from Bhagavad Gita. And many of the conversations are very, very interesting. Worth for the youth to watch. Very interesting movie. So golf as a game is a challenge between yourself and yourself. There is no opponent there. There's nobody is fighting with you. Right? You have to challenge yourself, and if you cheat, you're cheating yourself. There's nobody else is playing against you. You are playing against yourself. So is also our life, as Krishna would put it to Arjuna. I am here to tell you what you are capable of doing and what you should do, but I leave it to you to do this. I cannot force you. In life, if you want to grow up, evolve, mature, and then become enlightened, it is a personal travel. It's a journey individual has to take it up on oneself. So that is where the teachings of Bhagavad Gita is so closer to the game of golf. So I gave the name Goals of Life Accomplished. It's a GOLF. The chapter 1 of Arjuna is portrayed, where he says, I cannot fight this war. Next. Next. So, in the Bhagavad Gita first chapter, Arjuna asks his charioteer, Krishna, to place his chariot right in the middle of the two armies. Senayorubayor madhye ratam stapaya mechyuta yavadedan iriksheham yoddukaman avastitan kairmaya sahayoddhavyam asmin ranasamudhyame yodyamanan aveksheham ya etetra samagataha. Please place the chariot in front of these two armies, in the middle of two armies. Why do you want to do that? Next. Before you begin any task, observe your field of action. Even in the play of, in the game of golf also, you start gauging the distance between you and that what called that flag that stands there. Now you have to look at the wind. What kind of which side the breeze is flowing? What is the speed? What is the distance? How much you have to swing? In which direction? How much of force you have to give? Which stick to use? There are so many different varieties of things you have to decide. So in life also, everybody is not in the same field, even in the professional field, for example. So any action that before you undertake, first observe it. What is needed? Am I qualified? Do I have the skill to do this? Either it's a project that you are taking up in your workplace or in your personal life, anywhere. First, observe the field. Next one is, know your position. That's why he says, Yavadedan niriksheham yoddukaman avastitan. To whom I am fighting with, kairmaya sahayoddhavyam. I need to find who are my people whom I fight with. Asmin ranasamudhyame. In this battlefield, yodyamanan aveksho. I mean, I want to know who are so eager to fight with me. Ete atra samagata. Those who have come and assembled here. So now we as individuals, as I said, each one is so unique. Our skills are unique. Our strengths are unique. As much as our weaknesses are also. Next. Be clear about your purpose, strength and weakness. It's very important to know where you are weak, because that is going to be somebody else's strength. The opponent's strength is essentially directly related to your weakness. Even at home, somebody's weakness is somebody's strength. Your wife or your husband know exactly which are the buttons to press to make you jump or cry, to get angry or upset, or get what he or she wants. True or not? So also the boss knows the strength and weakness of the subordinates, and the people below also know what are the strength and weakness of the boss. So in our Shastra, that is especially Nidhi Shastra, Chanakya's Artha Shastra, it is very clearly given, a king or a manager in today's context should never show where he or she is weak to the subordinates. But that can be very detrimental to the others. So, but when it comes to personal relationship, you cannot avoid, because somebody is constantly watching you, observing you, you cannot avoid. But then, if the purpose of your engaging in something is clear, understand how much of your strength is useful there and how much you avoid that weaknesses that you have coming into play while you are in the task. This is what happened exactly in Arjuna's case. His strengths were phenomenal, but he weakness, even though a little, that took over. That's why Arjuna Vishada Yoga. His weakness took over his infinite strength. He was a mighty warrior. Dhananjaya. He was a winner of lot of laurels and great amount of victory. But then, what was his weakness? His weakness was identifying in the battlefield with the opponents. My people, my uncles, my cousins, my friends, my own guru, my teacher. My. That my, if it is minus, you can do anything. That minus is not minus. Therefore, he got caught. So Krishna says, look at the people in front of you as those who are against dharma and not as your relatives. Because you here as a soldier fighting the war, you are not fighting the war against any one of your relatives, you are fighting against adharma. That is what is important here. So that was a great help. Next. So get help to overcome weakness, train your strength and stick to the purpose. These are the three things which we necessarily have to do in every task that we take up. Help to overcome weakness. That's why we have consultants. Certain things which I don't know, I cannot now learn about it. It's not possible for me, or I have to spend more time in what I can do. So I get help from those who are capable of doing which I cannot do. Not all of them can do everything. So instead of wasting my time learning from the scratch and keep scratching, so why not I get help from someone who is capable of doing it. So get help to overcome your weakness. And in that context, Krishna was a great help for Arjuna. Because he could not think properly at that time. He is unable to think straight because he is overwhelmed by the idea I and mine. Whereas Krishna was looking at the same situation objectively. Not that he didn't have his people are there because his own army he gave to them. To Duryodhana, he gave the army. His own people, the people whom he trained are there in front of him. Krishna says, my people are there. Am I worried about it? I am looking at the situation very objectively. So that help that he had at that point was very crucial. Training your strength instead of spending time in trying to find out what is wrong with you, instead train your strength on what is right. In the play of golf also, don't imitate somebody else because his or her swing is not yours. That's the beauty of this game. You cannot imitate somebody else. You have to find what your swing is, what you are capable of doing. And each one is unique. Even at home, two children cannot be the same. They have their own unique strength and weaknesses. So don't say, oh, look at her, she did this way. Look at him, he did. I mean, it's very often they get offended. I am not he. I am not she. That's what they would say. Look at me as an individual and what I can do. And so as parent also, you must make sure that what this person's strengths and weaknesses are, talk about to that person only in context, only that person in context. Moment you compare, you are creating a conflict there. Similarly, don't compare yourself with somebody else and look down upon yourself, as much as don't become too proud about yourself as well. Because I am an individual who has certain plus and minus, and I have to work on it, not imitating somebody else, not comparing myself with somebody else. So the first chapter talks about observing the field. So that is place yourself in the middle of the field and observe well. This is most important in most of our professional endeavors, personal tasks, and all our spiritual pursuits as well. The second chapter begins. Important message: a bend is not an end. In a golf field also, you will find suddenly there is you cannot even see where the target is, where the hole is. So you have to swing in such a way that it goes like this. You may not see the target clearly, but you know it is there. So you go up to a point where you can go. From there you move to the next one. That's much I know of golf. Whenever I played, every year I am invited to speak. I'm invited to go become part of a golf tournament in Indiana. And this September also I'll go there. During first week of September we have, that's the best weather condition they have at that time. So I used to do the tee off. You should see how all the 5 elements are so fond of me. Waters invite me, wind will invite me. So you cannot see the target, but you can go closer to it because it's bent. So also in our life, Krishna would say, you may not be clear about what you want to achieve. It is not. It is an evolving, constantly maturing thought, a goal. Many people ask this question to me, Swamiji, ultimately, what is this enlightenment is all about? Can you clearly define it? So the definition that we get from Upanishads and Gita and many other sources are that freedom, liberation, moksha is vasana akshayo vai moksha. This is the definition Shankaracharya gives. Where your vasanas, that is far away from me now, the board, I mean the BMH, the vasanas that are there, the total elimination, attenuation of vasanas is what is called liberation. Now, how vast is which vasanas? Nobody knows. Meaning, how many impressions that are there in our mind which can probably trouble us, we can never know. One is over, 100 others are coming in. So, vasanas, impressions, tendencies, past memories, they are predominantly there in our mind. One is fulfilled, another will come. So there is no end to it. So can you get discouraged by this fact that you can never overcome that? So Krishna very clearly says, next, many bends are the way to excellence, on the way to excellence. And what are them? What are those? Second, next, success, failure, gain, loss, victory, defeat. They repeat. Now, the only way to overcome that, there are 3 things Krishna says in the Gita, in 2nd chapter. He says, one is being patient about them, called titiksha. Titiksha is tolerance, because you cannot avoid good people or bad people around you. Good things and bad things come to you. Like a weather condition, when it is hot or cold, what you should do? Titiksha. Be patient, tolerant about that. Whatever you can do to avoid it or to make sure that you are not affected by that, do it. So in our first level of spiritual evolution, one should not get frustrated about situations that are not predictable. People are not predictable, weather is not predictable. So at those times, practice titiksha, tolerance. This is the basic teaching. Then comes the level, little higher level is called samatva. Samatvam is being same. It doesn't matter whether it is hot or cold or success, failure, joy or sorrow, I need to maintain inner balance. So this is coming as a second level of evolution. Tolerance does not avoid situation. You know that I don't like this. You know that I like this. But what I like doesn't happen. What I don't like doesn't stop happening. Diksha. Tolerate. क्या करें? भगवान की इच्छा. मेरा कर्म ऐसा ही है. So you can go all those things, but don't blame yourself. Diksha. Tolerate. But then comes the next session, next level, as I said, where you treat them same. Because your purpose or your goal is little higher than merely managing these things. So that's why he says, be same in all such conditions and never give up. Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yujjasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Sukha and dukkha, labha alabha, jaya and ajaya. Three things he said: joy and sorrow, sukha and dukkha; labha alabha, gain and loss; then jaya and ajaya, success and failure. These three are important because why he brings three different pairs of references here, contradicting each other. Each one, sukha and dukkha. Now, sukha and dukkha, these are experienced at our body level. At our physical body, comfort and uncomfortable situations. That is experienced at the level of the body. And labh, alabh, gain and loss are at the level of the mind. And concept of success and failure are in the intellect. Last time also I talked to you about that. Your concept of success is not my concept of success. My idea of success is totally different from yours. So that's why some people ask, Swami, are you a successful Swami? I said, I don't know. What is your concept? I have no idea. So the concept of success and failure, it is intellectual. Each is so unique. But gain and loss is pretty much emotional at the level of feelings. So let us say that if you have got suddenly a lottery you won for say 100,000. So the idea that I gained something which I never expected or whatever, the joy that may come to a person is same, more or less same if anybody it comes to. Right? If so you get 100,000 or I get 100,000, I definitely am happy if I get it, and definitely you are happy on it. But if you get it, I don't get it, I am unhappy about it. So joy and its gain and loss, pretty much we can predict. Whereas success and failure you cannot predict that. Sukha and dukkha, it is at the body level. So now if the AC is on, everybody is sukha. Bodily we are happy. If I put it off, you may not listen to me. I mean, because of that you become dukkhi and you give me dukkham also. The body level, comfort and discomfort. So he says in all the three different layers of your personality, at the body level, at the mind level, at the intellectual level, sukha dukkha, labh alabh and jaya and jaya. Same krutva, being same, then engage in the field where you want to excel, you will not get your mind agitated, disturbed. Na evam papam avapsyasi. But also he says, if your target is noble, if you are engaging in the world is for a higher noble purpose, you will not even incur sin out of this. Because Arjuna was so afraid that if I engage in this battlefield where I am going to kill my own guru, I am my own grandfather, my own cousins, my own uncle, how terrible sin it is. No, it is not a sin. It is not a sin at all. Why? Because you are not killing out of personal vengeance. You are killing because they are doing adharma. They are doing the wrong thing. So, just like a soldier who is shooting his enemies is awarded Whereas you do the same thing when to your neighbor, you will be punished, is it not? Gun is the same, you are the same, shooting is the same. But what purpose? The purpose of a soldier shooting an enemy is considered very high and appreciable and then even awardable. But then the same person with the same gun, with the same act of killing, does it for personal reason. The person is punished by the law, same law. So the intention is more important than the action. The intention behind the action determines whether it is sinful or meritorious, and not the action by itself. Just like a surgeon, when he takes a knife and cuts the body of the patient into parts to make sure that the cancerous growth is removed, is considered as an act of nobility. Of course, he's paid for that. But if you go and do it to your neighbor, it's not considered as right because your intention is wrong. So therefore he says, if your mind is able to maintain the inner balance equipoise, and then you are able to accomplish your task without being oscillated by the unexpected situations that will cause joy or sorrow, success, failure, gain and loss at the three levels of your personality, you are not sinful. What it amounts to is that when we have a short vision of our life, when you do not have a long-sighted or far-sighted vision in our life, little small things that happen in our life will make us so discouraging. That's why he says, a bend is not an end. This situation may be failure, so what? This situation may be somewhat giving me sorrow. This situation where I lost something, doesn't matter. Keep playing. Keep tado yuddhaya yujjasva. That's what. Keep going. Don't stop. So only those who have very short vision of life get discouraged very fast. They lose their encouragement drive. They lose their enthusiasm to live very quickly because their idea of life is very short. Oh, today I don't get it, I'm useless, I'm lost. How many youngsters we have seen committing suicide and other things because their idea of life is so stupidly silly. The simple thing they get put off. Why? Because they do not have a longer perception of it. Vision about the life that is in this human body is also short actually. Have the vision of the soul and its journey. This body and its existence is very short-lived in that context. So at least we must think 10 years ahead. Amiji, even tomorrow I don't know what's going to happen. Doesn't matter. Nothing stops you to have vision. You don't need to worry about it. You have vision about your life at least next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. The best vision one should have is the vision of the soul. I'm here as a short period of time for evolving. I'm not at the end of the body is not end of me. That's what Krishna says. Avinashita tatvitti yena sarvamidam tadam vinasham avyasasana kasyit kartum arhati. And nobody can bring an end to your soul. Body can die. So the highest vision is the spiritual vision. Immortality is my nature. So expand the vision. That's what Krishna says. Don't get bogged down by the shorter visions, that shorter failures or shorter gains and shorter losses. Don't worry about that. That's in the second chapter. So the third chapter begins into us. Keep the mind behind the hand. It's very, very important. Mindfulness. This is what is given very well by Krishna as Karma Yoga. Because we are all men of action. We cannot remain without acting, meaning doing our work. Karmendriyani sanyamye aste manasaspanan indriyarthan vimodhatma mithyachara suchate. Yes, tvindriyani manasa yem arabade arjuna karmendriye karma yogam asaktasya vishishyate. So even in the game of golf, I mean, I was, where was that? Some place where I went, they took me to the golf court. Then they taught me how to play. So he said, okay, Swami, you see that, that's where you have to hit. That's where the ball has to go. Okay. So take this, okay. Keep your hand in a particular position. Now, I was looking at the target. Swamiji, you have seen that right now? Yes. Don't look at it now. Look at your stick. But don't look there. That is where I have to hit. I know, but don't look there. Because we play like cricket, you know. Oh, the fellow is coming, smash that fellow out. In the cricket, you have to look at that fellow, what speed he is coming, because what kind of, whether it's putting a swing or right swing or left swing or Google, whatever. Google, right? Googly, or whatever. Googly, what speed he is coming, and then where are the fielders and where I have to hit. I was standing like this. I said, Swamiji, please don't play cricket here. Because nobody is going to throw the ball at. The ball is here only. Look at the ball, look at your stick. That is all. You have seen the target, adjust yourself to that, and then all your attention is here. It's very interesting. See that person is looking, lady is looking at what she's doing. So once you plan your action, Gurudev used to say, plan out your action and work out your plan and execute your plan. Once your plan is set, this is what I plan to do, then all your attention is what you are doing right now. Pay whole attention to that one. Plan out your action and work out your plan. Do your homework first. What is that which you would like to do? Spend as much time as you want if you would like to, but make sure that you are very clear about what is that which you want to do. So as he says next one, place your mind where your hands are busy. And next, do not keep your mind busy and your hand idle. That's why he says, Krishna says, such a person is called Mithyachar, hypocrite. Who's an hypocrite? He is sitting and imagining, but making people feel that he is meditating. Many people do that. Oh, Swami, see that person? How engrossed. What's going on in his mind, nobody will know. Karmendriyani sanyamya, not doing anything with the body. Ya aste manasa smaran, but mind is running in 100 mile speed. Indriyarthan vimudatma, thinking about what he want to enjoy. Mithyachar. On the other hand, he says, yaha tu indriyani sanyamya, where a person is able to have total mastery over his senses. So, keeping the mind and the senses under one's mastery. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamya arabade Arjuna, when he engages in action. What way? Karmendriyaihi karma yogam. Asakta. Asakta is the most important thing. There where he is no more attached to what is going to happen. He is totally attentive to what is happening right now. Because if that action done now is right, the result has to be right. What happens to us is, our mind, half of the mind is so anxious about what's going to happen. In the process, we are not able to pay attention to what is happening. The mind is, half of the mind is gone. Anxious about, very extremely agitated about what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. Then where is the mind available for you to do your best? So, do not keep your mind there where, do not keep your mind busy and hands idle. Whereas place your mind there where your hands are. Our Gurudev used to say, if your hand is not where the mind is, if your mind is not where the hand is, you will keep your hand where the mind is. Oh my God, mistake. If your mind is not with the hand will be in the mind. Inadvertence, erroneousness, all this happens because the mindfulness. Mindfulness is a very vast subject itself. Sometime later we'll see that. How to develop that ability to pay attention to what you're doing. So, the third chapter, it is Karma Yoga, keeping the mind where the hand is. So, Karmani Yoga, Karma Yoga. Yoga means to unite. Karmani, getting united to the action with total attention. That itself is a spiritual practice. Many people say, oh, I cannot, Swamiji, I cannot go and sit and do bhajans and rituals and puja. I cannot do this. I cannot go on reading this Bhagavad Gita. No, I don't. Tell me that I have to do something. I am ready to just roll up my sleeves and ready to act. There are many people who do that. Lokmanya Tilak, for example, a great freedom fighter, he made this very clear to the people. There is enough of temples. Let us get out and do some work. At the time when everybody was, very driven to fight for freedom, he said, enough. All of you are doing whatever you are doing, rituals, etc. Stop that. Let us go and do some work for the country. And he was so driven and he made people come out. He was the one who started this festival of Ganesha in a large scale we are doing nowadays in Bombay. It is because of his initiative. He said, inside the temple, whatever is going to be done, it has to be done outside as well. Let us gather the people around and make sure that the people have one goal. And let us gather together. And that's how he brought a momentum there. So there are people who will say that there is no need for rituals and other pujas, etc. But I would clarify here, even as you are doing a ritual of performing a puja or chanting the mantra, there also mindfulness is there. In every ritual, what you are doing, how you are doing, what mantra you are chanting, how many times you are offering, to whom you are offering, with what attitude, everything is mindfulness there. Only 3 times you have to offer. You have to remember that. You cannot say 5 times. I don't know how many times I did. You have to say Om Keshavaya Swaha, Om Narayana Swaha, Madhavaya Swaha. Done. Meaning you be aware of this. And to whom you are offering flowers, what mantra you are chanting. So if you look at ritual from that perspective, it is also a training of the mind to be mindful. Anyway, so the Karma Yoga is not necessarily something which is only a social service or anything. Whichever be the act, let the mind be where the hand is. Krishna says that is important skill that you have to train yourself with to accomplish anything. Next comes the 4th chapter, where Krishna is giving a little more insight into the action leading to a greater in-depth silence. Karma sannyasa. In the game of golf also, why people are so interested to play that game is because it gives them a lot of time to themselves. So many of the women come and spend so much time. Swamiji goes in the morning and whole day is not there. Yeah, he wants to be with himself. What's your problem? Say when you are cooking, if somebody constantly comes and disturbs you, will you like it? Leave it to me. I make a lot of mistakes and you just let me finish my job. Similarly, a person who wants to spend time with oneself, best time is in nature. where nobody disturbs and nobody is annoying and asking you questions. You just want to be with yourself and with the nature. What Krishna says in the 4th chapter is, in action, you must find inaction. Now, the next is, see, an alert mind is still and silent. Next, action need not disturb the stillness. It's like sun's reflection on the still waters of the lake is a beauty. It doesn't disturb the water. It just enlightens it, beautifies it. And next, let your action be a reflection and not a reaction. Most people, when we are acting in this world, responding to the demands and situations outside in this world, we tend to react without thinking. What that means, responding without thinking is called reaction. We habitually, when we do anything, it is reaction. Unconsciously, when we respond, it's called reaction. Sometimes it may work and not all the times. Because let us say that if a person is coming to me, whom I know very well, and he or she is asking, and mechanically I answer, versus somebody whom I don't know comes and asks the similar question, and I respond to the same way, I'm not sensitive to this person now. You understand? Not all actions have to be done in the same way to all people. You have to be aware of to whom you are talking to. Would you talk the same way to a child as well as to an adult? No. Is it not? You become unaware of to whom you are talking to. You become aware how much maturity that person has, how much sensitive that person is, what he or she will understand, what he or she will not understand. Is it not? So when we mechanically do something which is not thought of before, it's a reaction. Not only that, Krishna says that your action should become a reflection. Why am I doing this? Is it I am doing for the sake of some egoistic pleasure, my selfish interests? Or I am doing here an action that can evolve me from this condition to the next condition of maturity. Karmani akarmaya pashed akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta krishna karmakrit. It's a very beautiful, very deep message Krishna gives there. Karmani, in action, akarmaya pashed, he who sees in action. So when you are playing the game of golf, you are hitting the ball all right. Your action stops of moment you start, moment you hit that ball. After that, what happens is not your control at all. You know that, right? As much of attention you give, as much of power you give to that hitting that ball is yours. After that, what happens is you have to watch. Where it lands, how it rolls, how closer it goes to the goal. So to start with, in our practice, in personal life of spirituality, do the best, leave the rest. Gurudev used to say, you have to do your best. That is where the mindfulness comes. You have to bring the best of your abilities in every action you do. This is the one message Gurudev gave to us for sure. Whether it is an act of personal interest, how much you pay your attention, so much of enthusiasm and then so much of drive with which you do a selfish act where the result is yours alone, the same amount of interest and enthusiasm you should have when you do a selfless action, a seva. No different. And in both the actions, understand the result is not determined by you alone. Especially when it is selfless action, you must realize that when I act, I must act, give the best and leave the rest. Let the invisible hands of the Lord take over. You lose a lot of anxiety, you build trust and faith, and you become relaxed. This is the first step of in the path of spirituality. In a higher level, Krishna says, even as you are acting, your body is acting, but the Paramatma, the God lives in you, is only witnessing it. He's not acting there. He never acts. So you have a choice of engaging in action as an anxious individual who has a desire to get the result, or do the same action without a selfishness, or act being a witness. So the acting while being a witness is the highest level. Knowing that who is acting is not you. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartahamidi manyate. Only a person who thinks I am the actor is an egoistic person. A man who knows that body acts, I witness, he is a man of reduced ego. Why? Because when he knows that body acts, I am a witness, he doesn't own the action. So when the result doesn't come the way he wants, or somebody ridicules and criticizes the action, he'll say, maybe I'm not the actor. So that result or a criticism or a praise doesn't belong to me. Karmani akarma. When action, inaction. So that is where Krishna already started introducing the attitude of witness in meditation. So it cannot happen to us very easily, because when we are acting, most of the time we are so prompted by the result and then all other things that come along with that, without which we are not even driven to act. Because most of our actions are prompted by some selfishness, some return that we are going to enjoy. Now, how many of us thus act and then never worried about whether the result is favorable or unfavorable? Very difficult for us. And with the same anxious or disturbed mind, when you sit for meditation, even out of that meditation you want some result. Am I meditating properly or not? Hope people are watching that I'm meditating. Or at the end of meditation, go and look at the face. I think I'm a little brighter than yesterday because of meditation. Even when you are doing a meditation, then you become anxious about the result. So Krishna says you have to train your mind while engaging in action itself how to not have that anxiety about the result. One is say that I am acted, the result belongs to God. That is one way of doing it. The Krishna here says that while engaging in action itself, know that you are not acting. It is the prakriti, it is a guna, it is the quality of your body reacting to the quality of the world, the demands of the body dealing with the demands of the world. You are not, you are just witnessing it. That requires quite a bit of training. Krishna says that is called karma sannyas. Karma sannyas, a literal meaning is renunciation of action. But renunciation of action is not renunciation of action. That is why it says, Sabuddhiman Manusheshu, he is an intelligent fellow, Sayukta Krishna Karma Krit, even though he is doing all actions. Krishna Karma means all actions he does, but he doesn't consider himself as an actor. So, not doing an action and thinking that is called renunciation, Krishna says that's not. I in fact discourage you to think like that. You should act, but don't become an actor. Oh. You should act, but never think that you are acting. You should work, but never think you are working. So that shift, that ability to withdraw in the identification with that action, identification with that actor, doer, that is where you find you are very relaxed while acting itself. Very quiet and peaceful, still and silent while engaging in action, not at the end of it. That's why he says, be still and act. So the fourth chapter is a very, very interesting shift from from the action to how to act without being an actor, how to do without being a doer. So that is, even while in the play of golf, understand your action ends in just hitting that ball. What happens after this? Not yours. Even while you are hitting that ball, do it with an idea that I am not the doer. My hand with the stick is hitting that ball. That's it. Relaxed. In the fifth chapter of Gita, I'm not going to go for all the, don't worry about it. So, just going to give a glimpse of, or maybe up to 6 we'll go. It says, don't get insulted by the result. This is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. How knowledge is able to become the armor when you are acting. It is the protector. How the correct understanding and wisdom plays a very important role in Karma Yoga. How knowledge gets strengthened in practice of Karma Yoga. So next, getting insulted by the result weakens you. Next, strength is in facing the result and not in running away or getting hurt by it. So Krishna says, your knowledge is tested in your action, and by which only the knowledge gets strengthened. If I say I know cooking, I claim myself to be a good cook. I can claim myself only when I make people not to suffer by my cooking. Is it not? Or if I say I am a good singer, how many people suffer out of it? That doesn't make me a good singer. Knowledge is strengthened by knowing how well it is expressed in action. If I say I know it, but I never venture to act, how will I know whether I know is right or wrong? I often tell these people, once you read something, once you understand, close the book, experiment it. Find out whether your knowledge has become a part of your action. If it is not, it has become so divorced. Knowledge and action has no connection. So when do I know that my knowledge is strong and well rooted, where you are not anymore insulted by your results of action? That is where the knowledge becoming stronger and stronger. If you are continuously agitated, disturbed by the world, and whatever you did, whatever you are doing, and people are appreciating, and because of it you get elated, or people are insulting, ridiculing it because you get low, that means knowledge has not worked on you. You are still having a superficial understanding of yourself. You are vulnerable. You are weak. People can really toss you around. You have no strength, no bear. You are not able to bear anything. It's like, and I give the example often, a ship in the ocean, when you see how strongly it is able to face the waves in the middle of the ocean, it is because its depth is too far below. The depth or what do you call the below the what you see, the ship that has so much of depth inside, that is that strength because of which it is not disturbed by the waves that are hitting on it. So also, if you see an individual very strong, not emotionally disturbed easily, it is not because he's superficially sitting there trying to tolerate. Depth is there. He has already gone to deep within oneself, and therefore he doesn't get disturbed by onslaughts of situations. That rooted in knowledge is tested in the marketplace. When you are away in some isolation and loneliness, oh, I am a man of meditation, nobody can disturb me, because nobody is there to disturb you. What kind of okay. So I know how to drive car. Where? In the ground. And nobody is there. Obviously anybody can drive. But in the marketplace where everybody is running around and the buffalo is standing in front of you, like in India, when many people say, oh, Swamiji, here it is easy to drive. In India you should drive. Then you will see whether how skillful you are. Your skill in driving is tested in side roads of Bombay. There, let us see the skill of yours. Anytime anything can appear, from anywhere, any size. What will you do? Without eating everybody, you have to drive. Let us see. So in the same way, if you are isolating yourself or running away from people and say that you are happy and peaceful, that is not. Right in the middle of situations, are you able to maintain that peace and tranquility? So, strength is in facing the result and not in running away or getting hurt by it. Sri Krishna gives a beautiful example of a lotus lotus flower, lotus leaf. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam taktva karodiyah lipyate nasapapena patmapatram ivambasa. Like that of a lotus on the water, the leaf is untouched by the water. Patma patram iva ambasa. Ambasa patma patram iva. Like the water, by the water, the leaf of the lotus is not affected. Na lipyate, doesn't get anywhere tainted. Brahmani adhaya, keeping the mind in that higher self. Karmani sangam tyaktva karoti, where a person does that without attachment, he is able to remain aloof, even in the midst of situations. So we've seen up to 5. Let's go slowly. Some other time we can see the rest of it. But I want to draw a connection between 3 things. One is the message of Gita, the field of life, and the game of God. All the 3 are connected because in these 3, the challenge is to face yourself. Don't blame the world, don't blame the situations, don't blame the circumstances. They are there, whatever they are. But where the strength of an individual comes when one is able to face all those challenges by the knowledge, faith, understanding, experimentation of one's own knowledge. That is what the spiritual path is. The excellence of spiritual path is the challenge you are ready to take it upon yourself. God is not involved here as such, except that He helps you to move ahead. Not to hang on, get attached to. As our Gurudev would say, I am not a donkey to carry you on my back. I can only a light to show you on the path. I can show you the path. This is the way you have to go. Don't get on to me. So, the knowledge or the spiritual understanding that helps us face different situations. Okay. So, we'll conclude here. Any questions anybody has? कुछ प्रश्न है? Anybody has questions? No one has questions.
Nobody has questions?
Okay, their Darshan has questions.
Swamiji, you said be silent and act. In today's world, how would that work in a profession? If you just remain silent and act, people will not consider it.
Little louder, I am not able to hear. Go ahead. I can hear.
You say be silent and act.
Right.
But in today's profession, if you just remain silent and do your work, people will not consider it. Also, in family, to teach children, if you just be silent and keep doing your work, they really just take you for granted and they will not improve. Would you enlighten us?
Yeah, when I said be still and act, I do not mean don't say anything. I don't mean by that. What I mean by that is often shift your attention to be an observer and understand that action anyway takes place. Like for example, if you have a garden back in your backyard, the plant grows whether you like it or not. So you can observe how the growth takes place. You don't need to do anything. Just put the water or whatever. So also Prakriti, the nature of the nature is it constantly engages in action. So where you need to give your input, you should give input. There's no doubt about it. It's especially the children, where you may have to give your wisdom to the child so that the child knows things. Yes. When I say be still and act means where inner silence has to be maintained, not outer silence. I don't mean by that. Inner silence is possible only when you are an observer. Like when you are watching a TV, you are a very silent person because you are observing, right? Similarly, the observing personality should be very silent. Even as you are commenting or giving an advice to somebody who needs such an advice, do understand the result of your advice is not necessarily positive to the other person because that person will act according to his or her understanding. So that is the Prakriti. How much ever 108 times you do say the same thing, you will still make the same mistake. Until that person learns out of his or her own experience, it doesn't become his knowledge. See, even Gurudev used to say, I'm talking to you, but it becomes your knowledge only when you think about it. So long as you are listening to me and vicariously you are getting the information, it will remain superficial. Unless you think about it, you don't act upon it. Right? So, be still. What I mean by that is, while you are engaging in action, a part of your personality should be observing it. In this observer alone learns. The actor doesn't learn because he only acts. The one who is observing is the one who is actually learning out of that action. If that observer is absent, you continue to repeat the same action again and again and again, and you would never know that it is wrong. See, when a person is, let's say yesterday we had a session here, I mean I was not part of that, but they had a karaoke session, they're singing. They had that some fundraisers. You were there, I think. So we had some morning program here and then I finished that. So I just came there to the balcony to watch what's going on here. So there's a music. And that person started singing Apaswara. Apaswara means, where the swara and he has very far away. And people are listening. I said, how is they are tolerating this? And that person was very joyously was going about it. Now, only an observer will know. One who has the knowledge, and I don't know. I don't have the knowledge of music, but I know that it is not the correct pitch he was singing. So to him, he may not even know that. So why do we need a judge there? Because they are observing as an observer to find out whether that fellow is singing correct or not. So a part of you must be an objective observer, not a subjective one. Objective observer watching, not judging, but watching and finding out, okay, this is right or wrong. Not to judge and condemn yourself, but observe, not know that this is not the right thing to do. Or I did the right, the way yesterday I did the same thing and today I am doing the same thing. Is there anything that I can change? Anything that I can improve? So that is possible only when there is an observer. That observer should be silent. That's what I mean. Yes.
If you are a real silent observer,
Take it. Go ahead.
if you are a real silent observer, you will always find a solution to any problem.
Very positive you are. I hope so. Any other question? Yeah, here, Samir.
When we're trying to detach, our rasa, we're trying to adjust our rasa to get the control. One of the things we're taught is to attach yourself to something higher. And many of us are here, we attach ourselves to Chinamish. What happens when we get attached to Chinamish?
You are not attached to an organization or anything, but you are getting attached to the objective or the goal of the organization. Gurudev said, the goal of this mission is inner transformation. He said there is nothing else. Not the number of schools you build, number of centers you build, number of Balvir children you have, number of people coming and attend your class, nothing. Inner transformation is the goal of Chinmaya mission. He made it very clear. If that doesn't happen, you are wasting your time. So the goal, I mean, you getting attached to an organization, it doesn't mean that a building, it's not a building, not a people, the people keep coming and going. The teaching and how much it changes you, that is where you have to pay attention. That's what he would say. Attachment to, even a Swami, he said that that's dangerous. As he said, don't get attached to me because I'll be there after some time I disappear. But anybody who is coming to this field should get attached to or get interested in personal transformation. So then see, this personal transformation, getting attached to it is good in a way because it is that which makes you get detached from everything else and finally it detaches you from that also. So Ramana Maharshi used to give an example, in when they bury the body, burn the body, when somebody is dead, say they burn the body, they put it on that log of wood, it burns. While it is burning, they take a long stick to make sure that the burning is done complete. And they put that. Finally, that stick is also put into the fire. That should not be taken home. In the same way, he says, inner transformation is a process when you get attached to, finally that also will get disappear. So even that attachment is also not there. So it's not an organization or a person or a group of people. It is the objective for which we are coming here. You had a question?
When you were discussing the chapter number 4, you said once you leave the goal, your action is done. And then the result, you have to leave the result to the nature. Now, when you apply it to the everyday life, so many actions you have done, but the result you have to wait for so many years. And during that time period, so many factors affect the result also. Like in goals, we are talking about less than a minute, few seconds. If the ball goes in the ground, but in the real life, we are talking about many years or maybe 10 months for the goals. So how does that connect like action of hitting the ball and action in the real life.
Yeah, it is the same because as you said that when you hit the ball, it just takes few minutes or few seconds for it to reach there. Whereas in real world, when you do an action, the result may not be immediate. It will come maybe this life or many lives later. That is where the building of faith is very important. You have done the best, leave the rest. It will happen. So we become anxious about the result because we don't we don't have the faith that what we have done is the right thing. So that faith has to be there, that when you have done the best, the result will be the best, even though if it doesn't appear to be immediately. That much faith one must. That's why I said the vision, longer the vision, the greater is your peace. The shorter the vision, anxiety is also very high. Vision is longer, then your patience and peace is also more. Yeah. Like for example, the NASA, then when they're sending some, some vehicle to Mars, you know how much time they will spend, how many years they spend on doing the research on how to make it error-free. And in spite of all these things, within no time it will snap. How much frustrated they would become. 25 years they will work. One person would have spent the whole life in that. 5 seconds, gone, finished. What will you do with that? So even in this world that happens. So planning is necessary, execution is necessary, but the result is not necessarily the same which we want. The science knows that. Many of the scientific experiments will take decades to finish that.
So even if the result is not achieved, you still continue.
Yeah, that is the enthusiasm one should have. I'm on the right direction, I'll move ahead. I mean, I will not stop. So Gurudev used to say, your sadhana may not result in immediate results, and you should not get frustrated about that. And our mind is such a fickle one. One day it will all be enthusiastic and does things right and everything is positive and everything, you go ahead with that. Next day it will just turn totally on 360, not 180 degrees. Yeah, 180 degrees. Totally opposite. What is the use of all doing? It will just discourage you. Then after some time you will feel very bad. Oh, I slipped through this, now this. And again I have to go back. So that's the mind. Yes. Kiran. Last question.
I will share my personal experience in my life. I am a cancer survivor patient. I am a cancer survivor patient, and I realized I read so many books of Buddha and inspired myself to fight this cancer. And now I understand that cancer is my friend. And whatever I believe in that, I fight with it again. And the planes are coming. In the next few days, another plane is coming. But I am going to fight.
Good, very good.
And I learned so many things from today's lesson. And I inspired something, I got my inspiration something more. And I am definitely sure I will fight against that. And I know it is not doing myself, it is nature doing. Because the hands of all the doctors, their knowledge, and they are helping me. And that's why I believe in nature.
Right.
And I believe in existence.
Yeah.
I'm not worried for that.
I'm so happy to hear that. That fighting spirit.
This is the real practical life.
Right.
And we have to live that.
Yeah.
We have to face it. We have not to scare us.
Yeah. Yeah. The cancer, as you said, that is something which is unpredictable and it can happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere, any place. So you do not know where it is coming from. So fighting that is really a real fight a person should have. it is so heartening to note that you are so driven to make sure that it is fought out, and I'm happy that this encouraged you more. So, what can be more threatening than one's own life, one's own end of life? So, I mean, we get disturbed by little things. Those who are such fighters only can tell us. All other things are immaterial. He said that, she said that, that happened, this happened. We get so bogged down by such petty things. But when a life-threatening thing comes and then somebody can stand there and nothing doing, I'm going to fight about it, then he can or she can withstand anything else in life. So that is why the soldier is taken as an example in Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because he is standing next to death. He can die any moment. One shot, that is all over. At that point, Krishna says, fight. Don't give up. So that example of soldier there, Arjuna is taken up as a most important one, because so unpredictable is the next moment. So many people ask, why did he not talk about this for so many years he spent with Arjuna? Why at the battlefield? Reason is something unpredictable is going to happen. So at that time you should not give up your enthusiasm. Very good. So next session next Sunday we'll have another important topic, medication versus meditation. So please go ahead.